This conference will now be recorded.
See, I hear that perfectly.
He's not there, so.
Tuesday, August 16th, 2022. This is the regular August meeting of the Davenport Public Library Board of Trustees. We're meeting in meeting room C of the library main. My name is Steve Imming, President of the Board of Trustees, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is roll call and the introduction of attendees. Sylvia?
Here.
Judy?
Yep.
Joe?
Here.
Tom? Here. Laura? Craig?
Yes.
Thank you. Malavika is not present. Amanda?
Here.
Thank you. And I'm present also. Okay. Other attendees, let's not forget them. With us also is the library director, Jeff Collins. Assistant Library Director, Lexi Riley. Jennifer Williams, HR Operations Director. Tracy Moore, Development Director. Catherine Coons, Special Collections Supervisor. And Marion McGinnis, our City Council Liaison. And also need to mention we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Tom.
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the vote. Judy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Craig?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Amanda?
Yes.
And my own vote is yes, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public with comment. Seeing no one, move on to the next item, which is reports and communications. First item there is friends. See Jerry, the president, is not here. I was not able to attend the meeting. Was there anything of particular importance that they had for me? No? Okay. Move along then. Next item under reports and communications is committee reports. First item there is finance. Tom, anything from the finance committee?
Well, just budget recap you have is for just 1 month. And so, I mean, it's only a small part of the year, but 8% of the fiscal year and the total city appropriation is at 9%. So, I mean, we're right where we should be.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on the finance committee report? Okay. Moving on. Next item on the agenda under committee reports is personnel. Amanda?
Yep, so the city requires that the library director have an evaluation at 6 months after hire. So we have collected surveys from the board, surveys from the staff, and we will be performing the 6-month evaluation today and getting the results to the city very soon.
Thank you. Any questions on the personnel committee report? Okay. Moving on, advocacy. Anybody from the advocacy committee? Malavika isn't here today, so no report. We'll move on. Next item under reports and communications is the director's report. Is there anything, Jeff, that you'd like to amplify or add?
Yeah, thank you. There are a couple of things. We're moving along too quickly, so I need to make sure I talk. So just a couple of things to highlight for the report. Number one is the meeting on September 20th is not going to be held at Eastern. It will be held here at Maine. So I want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. We are still waiting on, due to supply chain issues, so the video conferencing equipment has not arrived yet to update anything in that space. So we felt that it would be better here, despite the technological issues we're experiencing today as well. So we will look at rescheduling the one in Easter, and one that does occur. I end up skipping for this year and then end up cycling in next year as well. We did update the organizational chart, and that was included in the packet. The chart did a couple of things to improve some operations, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has about that process or about what the organizational chart looks like. Both the new chart and the old chart were included in the packet. The furniture installation at Fairmount has been coming along very well. We did have some impacts to service operations for a couple of weeks, but it wasn't too bad. And Bianca and the operations team did a really good job of moving that process forward. Also, speaking of Fairmount, the community center project, I want to make sure I spotlight that. They're in the pencils down phase of the project. And once we receive some schematics and drawings or renderings, once the city council sees those, we'll make sure that we share that with the library board as well. So you can see kind of what that looks like. And we're excited about that process moving forward. And then the last thing to talk about is the summer reading program is going extremely well. Got a lot of, we've actually exceeded the numbers we had last year, which is really great, by 50% more than we had the previous year, which is really great. And then something else to spotlight is the Davenport Community Schools actually modeled their entire summer school program around the library's summer reading program. So we think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I would agree. Also, thought you had several good mentions in there of things that you'd asked the design of the community center not do, like block the view of the building or take up parking places. Those are good things.
Correct. Yeah, the modeling that they had done indicated that we actually are over allotted space for parking in that area. But we, due to the number of events that we do hold there, such as the summer reading kickoff party, the Fairmount Block Party, and other activities like that, we did not want to lose any parking space. Plus, it with a new facility, in theory, it's going to draw more people from the community to not only come to the library, but also come to the community center. So we definitely tried to fight for having the additional, or at least keeping the current parking.
Any questions for Jeff? Okay. Moving on. Next item under reports and communications is our council liaison. Meredith, you have
Yes.
anything to share?
So a couple of things I'll talk about briefly and finish with Canadian Pacific because that's getting close to its end. So the discussion about conversion of 3rd and 4th Street back to two-ways begins this week. It is an ordinance change, so potentially is on our agenda for 6 weeks. There is we don't meet the very last week in August because it's a 5th Wednesday. So it will go through this discussion potentially. And I'm guessing most likely we'll go through the end of September. It being an ordinance change. So it starts, we're expecting, a lot of comment. I really don't know how it's going to go. I don't have any sense for how it's going to go with the council. So in any case, that starts, and that's, been part of the discussion through the year and public meetings on it and other things. So that's happening. Destination Iowa, the application for Destination Iowa grant, which is a sort of an economic development tool, and is due now the end of September. So we expect to have coming from staff in September the application, proposed application, what the city is looking at. I will tell you, we're looking to combine other funds that are there to make it's a 40-60 match. And I can't tell you everything that's in the proposal right now, but we're looking certainly to combine other dollars that have come to us through various means to help get us where we would need to be to, get a lot from, as much as we can from the state. So that will be it. So it's moving very quickly, and we probably will not see the proposal until the last cycle in September. So it's going to be very close. And so that's coming as well. Party in the Park, the very last Party in the Park is this week at EMICE, and I've enjoyed being with the library. Much of the my boards are done for this week, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do one. So they've been wonderful. They're exactly, I think, what the city wants these to be. When we run out of hot dogs, we know we've had a great, we're not looking for thousands of people, we're looking for hundreds, and the experience has really been very personal, and the contact, or at least for me, has really been excellent. So I don't know if we'll do it again, but I think it has gone very well. And the weather, if you want good weather, just schedule Party in the Park. Because it's, even when it's the hottest day of the summer, it's cool at Party in the Park. So anyway, knock on wood, I think we had to, did we reschedule one? Yeah, we had to move one early in, but it's really been great. On a personal note, of the Gold Coast Hamburg Historic District Tour is September 17th and 18th, 12 to 4, 5 houses on tour, plus the German American Heritage Center and the JIP. I've been working with folks at Special Collections, their cards there. It is something we do usually every other year, but we have not done one since 2018 because of the pandemic. And so we are excited we had 1,000 people at our last tour in 2018. We think there's a real appetite for this, so that will be coming back in September. And so we're excited about that. So if you want to attend, if you'd like to be a docent, you get a free ticket to the tour. It's a 2.5-hour gig, and you can get in touch with me, and I can put you up into the person that's doing the volunteer sign up. But or if you just want to come with friends, it's a great tour, I think. So we try to vary the houses and things like that. So finally, the other thing that it certainly has been on council's agenda is the Canadian Pacific. There will be the Surface Transportation Board will have its formal hearing, which is part of this national process on September 13th. And I believe it's at the River Center. That is something that the Surface Transportation Board puts on, not the city. So we did vote on this in the last cycle. We had, when this first came to council back in the fall, staff and council began conversations with Surface Transportation. We hired a Washington consultant. We talked to other cities that had dealt with this, and our take was, whether we say yes or no is not going to impact the decision of this merger. That hasn't been the case. Our Washington consultant agreed with that. And so our strategy was to look at the entire riverfront, what the impact of this would be, how would we try to mediate it and to negotiate for as much money as we could from the railroad to help us do that. We know it's probably not, we had a big list of things, and we know that we ended up with 10 million instead of the 3 million, which they're that's what you get if you get anything. So we did hold off. We said we did not want to have to approve it before the draft statement, the draft environmental statement came out, and it came out that week. It confirmed that they found like almost no impact, which we know there will be impact, but that was the finding, and that's what the Surface Transportation Board, that's a big part of what they based their decision on. It's the draft. It's his draft environmental statement, but it rarely changes from draft when it goes to the final, or that's the history again of this process. So we felt like that rather than 3 or nothing, we have 10, and so we did move forward to approve that after we had the environmental statement, and the timing was very, very close, but we were able to do what we had said. And I'll explain a little bit about the agreement. So 2 million of that is earmarked for an over surface crossing, vehicular and pedestrian crossing at Concord. Right now, because there's a switching station down in the west end, Concord often sits blocked. It doesn't allow access for residents. It doesn't allow access to the compost facility or to probably most importantly, our pollution control plant, which is there and which flushes toilets from Davenport all the way up to Panorama Park. It's a huge service line in the area where all of this is processed. And so that was a big issue. One of the benefits we're looking at in terms of, this is where you maybe getting money and trying to find money to match it. So we will be looking for additional grants, because one of the things this road can also bring us potentially is part of our flood plan toward that end of the city, so that an elevated road done correctly might also allow us to mitigate some of those issues. So it's a kind of a potentially a twofer. And we will be looking for additional grants. Now, Canadian Pacific said they would assist in that I think they will do what they can, but we're going to be aggressively pursuing that. The rest, the other 8 million, is just broadly to mitigate the issues of the additional trains and impact. Council will be deciding that as they vote on everything. This council, the next council, this is going to take a number of years. But there's nothing that says we sort of have to do that. But I think that I firmly feel like that's what we have to do. And I think other people on council do. So when those votes come forward, I think what you'll be seeing is things like silent crossings. That was something that was high on the list of things that council was interested in, and I think high on the list of what third-ward residents are interested in. And then the other part of the dollars are probably additional access points into our riverfront. Again, probably not enough to pay for everything we need, but will get us started, and this will be something. Yeah, again, we'll be looking for matches. We'll be looking for other dollars to help us accommodate this as well. So where those places are going to be is probably going to be the biggest subject of debate. But we feel like both pedestrian and vehicular / pedestrian, in the long run, we need to have access into other areas of our riverfront. So the water, I haven't heard anything about the water plant, but they were doing their own negotiations for their access. So they would have been working on their own there. The other thing that this agreement also had in it, which is not, it's not financial, but it's extremely important for the village neighborhood or village above the neighborhood. So on 13th Street, the bridge there, which had been closed because of its condition. If you will recall, a few years ago, Canadian Pacific had that bridge and also the Eastern bridge. They gave those to us with enough money to fix one, or partial money to fix one, and so we did go ahead and do the Eastern Bridge, which was certainly the more significant bridge in terms of traffic. So, but the problem with the 13th Street Bridge is to rebuild it would have required raising it 13 feet, and if you know where it is, it would have destroyed the neighborhood. It would have destroyed the access or the look, and would have been extraordinarily expensive to do. So one of the things we negotiated with this agreement was the waiver, which only Canadian Pacific could give us, and they did. So we don't have to raise that bridge now. So we still have to find the money, yeah.
Is that the same line that crosses Kirkwood too?
No, I don't think so.
Well, it's the same line,
Yeah.
but it's.
So if you're doing
different
the 13th Street Bridge, wouldn't you have to do Kirkwood as well?
No, it's the problem is the 13th Street Bridge. The problem is the bridge at 13th Street. No, the Kirkwood Street Bridge, no, that doesn't need repairing. The one on 13th Street is literally can't have vehicles. It's been closed for the last, 4 years?
No, it's pedestrian and traffic, the one on Kirkwood doesn't have.
Right, exactly.
But the one on 13th Street.
It's not, it's impassable right now.
Closed for,
Yeah, it's been 4 or 5 years. Right. So
Elm Street.
Yeah.
So
what-
both the ones.
Yeah, so it was the Elm Street, the other was the Elm Street. So what that does there is, right now, that neighborhood has no access back there at all. And to put the 13th Street Bridge back, we don't have to do anything with the thing over Kirkwood. It is what it is. So the trestle's okay, they're not taking that down or anything. But this is a different bridge that has not been able to have vehicular traffic on it for like 5 years. And if we fixed it, we would have had to raise it 13 feet, which would have been, it probably would never have opened again. So that neighborhood would in effect have lost access to itself, right? Because this would be very expensive. So taking it down, not having to raise it 13 feet, which we now have, that we will have that waiver, is huge. And getting it restored again, and for that neighborhood. So again, it doesn't impact probably most of us, but for the neighbors in that old neighborhood, it was a very big deal for them. So that was a non-monetary thing that we raised. So that hasn't had much discussion. In any case, yeah, no word, Joe, I don't think there's anything happening with the trestle at all. So
Just continues to eat. Right.
I'm trying to picture that bridge.
It kind of goes uphill,
it does,
one side to the other.
yeah.
It's just a small residential area.
It's like a road,
It
you
is
know,
a road.
and if you go, if you crossed it, probably crossed it many times, and there was a kind of an insignificant railing on both sides of it. You probably didn't even notice, but it has not been functional since they had to close it down.
That's
because
not
of
a
what
highly
it's
trafficked road though. 'Cause it-
correct.
It's kind of dead end
Yeah.
and then.
It's
there's
just
a little
important, it's just important to that neighborhood. So if you came off Kirkwood up 13th though, you would get it, right? Because you can come up. So in any case, so that was something else. And so and only Canadian Pacific could have granted that. So it probably wasn't important to them, but we also got some things about, when we're having to do construction, there's a lot of expense to flaggers and things like that. They're gonna pay for that. So it's not, we don't have to, there's things we don't have to do that they require that are expensive, and so we will not have to do that as well. So in any case, but the hearing is, I believe, September 13th, if you're interested. So I think that's about enough for council. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions? Okay. Let's see, moving along there. Next item is, on the agenda is new business. First item there is a motion to approve the general wage increase of 1.75% for the library director. And,
So moved.
okay.
Oh, did I say it too fast?
No, that's okay.
He's supposed to read it off.
We have a motion.
Oh, second. He said motion. I'm like.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Is this just the general increase for all directors for the city, the 175?
No. That's right.
Before he got so rudely.
But just a moment. So we have a motion and a second, so now we'll do discussion. But no, I was thinking, Tom.
Which is how it works.
Yeah. No, that was my recollection too, but actually this stems, as I understand, from the union agreement. And it's everybody in the library in the city gets it. But we're just approving, since Jeff reports to us, then we have to approve this.
Right. Well, again, when the union gets like 175% increase, then typically all of the directors across the city get 175.
And I have no idea. I can't answer that question.
So that was my question. That I know that's always been practice in the past.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Okay. So I'll call for the vote on the motion to approve the general wage increase of 1.75% for the library director. Judy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Thank you. Amanda?
Yes.
Sylvia?
Yes.
And my own vote is yes. Motion carried.
Let's spend all that to one.
Okay. Next item on the agenda under new business is discussion of the makerspace policy. This is a new policy. Yep, you want to give a little background on this?
So as you know, part of the renovation for the library at May was to include a space dedicated for maker technologies. And so the team has been working on developing a maker space. Primarily, Information Services Department has been iterating on a variety of different options on what to do. And we have a space dedicated, as you know, that's being branded as Studio 321. And that team has also been working on developing policies and procedures for use of that space. So the policy in front of you today is for the board to review and begin discussion about how you want to make sure that space is used from a policy level. And then this would be the first consideration with the approval being next month at that meeting. A couple of other things to note. Usually when we try to develop policy, we try to have the board approve the policy, and then the staff will then implement the procedure, the actual how to do things. Your role is definitely the rulemaking and how the big picture things, and then staff looks at how to actually implement that. With this particular policy, there are some procedural elements that are tied into it, because we found that with some policy and procedure, it works better to do that when we're presenting this information to the public, because there will be some waivers and liability forms that have been cleared by city legal and other guidelines on that process. It'll be easier from a patron perspective to be able to look at all this in one location. So that is kind of the big picture on where we are and what you are seeing before you. So it's broken out with the policy for the makerspace, including an acknowledgement that they received the policy, then the waiver and release of liability form, which is a pretty standard form, and then the 3D printer policy and the fees that are associated with the consumable costs.
Where is that space physically? Okay.
So as you walk into the main, through the main doors, it's going to be the left back.
Okay.
There's there's limited signage at the moment that indicates that. We're working on coming up with a process for how to more brand that area. And most likely what's going to happen is we're going to work with some of the makers in the community, maybe a contest or something where we'll have the letters Studio 321 on like 13-inch wooden letters, and then give them each a letter for them to then design something using the makerspace equipment that we have to come up with a cool sign. Then we'll probably spray paint it all one color and then get it attached. I think that'd be kind of cool. Yeah. Tie it into a program for the community and then see what that looks like.
Has this been, I presume that this has been run by city legal?
So the waiver of liability has.
Okay. I mean, just looking at it, the language looked like it had been, so, okay.
Okay, any questions, comments regarding the new?
Comments.
Oh, yes. Matt.
Just under, I mean, these are just like not even, I don't know if they really matter, but under 6, like, I don't know that E needs to be a separate sub part other than, I feel like that could just be part of the, I mean, that's just picky, but it says like makers will not be authorized to use equipment in the makerspace to create items that are U.S. copyright law governs the making of copies. I mean, the one right before it says that you can't make them if they're in violation of infringing on copyright. So it seems like E is just continuation of that.
We will add that in, so it's part of it.
Yeah.
E was a number 7.
Oh,
We
okay.
merged it in,
Got
and
it.
it needs to be merged even further.
Into
So we'll add it
D,
into
okay.
D.
Yep. And my only other comment was on E. I was just wondering if at the end of that sentence, it says due to negligent usage or intentional misuse. I mean, somebody could be doing it on accident, or they could just be in there.
Yes, we will add that.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, move on. Next item on the agenda is old business. The only item there is a motion to approve changes to the behavior policy, which we discussed at our last meeting. I have a motion to approve that. Thank you, Amanda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Have a motion and a second to approve the changes to the behavior policy. Is there any discussion?
So for the behavior policy, as you know, we've discussed this the last couple of months and most recently updated it in July. And this has helped with this. We were able to get some information back from city legal. So I shared that information with the board. So what we are proposing is just adding this one section where we clarify that soliciting, petitioning, panhandling, or gambling is prohibited inside the library building. And that again is coming from the aggressive panhandling change to city ordinance. So we believe that the policy is going to be in compliance with that ordinance. It'll still enable us to enforce policy to provide a safe environment for the public when they're coming to any of the library facilities. And it does clarify that it's inside a library building. So to be clear, panhandling, aggressive panhandling would be legal within the city limits, and that's not something that we feel the library board would be able to govern on the library premises outside of the building. So that wouldn't be in our part. Would still be allowed. We believe we can still address aggressive panhandling under one of these other behaviors. So if there is behavior that endangers the safety or health of others, we can address that behavior policy through that. Harassing behavior, we can address in that feature as well.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote on the motion to approve the changes to the behavior policy. Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Sylvia?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
And my own vote is yes. Motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda, president's comments and all that's been going on with the evaluation and everything else. I don't believe I have any today. So move along. Next item is board training, an overview of special collections by Catherine Coons.
Well, hello, everyone. I don't think I've attended a board of trustees meeting since I started almost 5 years ago. So I'm really happy to be here. So as Steve said, my name is Catherine Coons. I'm the special collections supervisor. In November, I will be celebrating 5 years here at the library, so I'm really excited. It's crazy that it's been that long, but it's really amazing. So just an overview of my overall staff in special collections. So we have about 5 staff members, including myself. So that's 4 full-time and then 1 part-time staff member. So we have a special collections librarian, a library assistant, and a principal clerk. And then our part-time staffer is our city archivist. And everybody else's. She still gets to do a lot of fun things with special collections, but she primarily works with records management at the city level. So she works with deaccessioning, things that have met retention, answering requests from all city departments, things like that. But so just generally, how I like to, when people first come into the special collections, I tend to ask them if they want to do a tour. And one of the first things that I say is that we're kind of a library within a library. So we kind of do a little bit of everything. So anything that the rest of the library does, we do it too. So we have public services. We staff a reference desk, which we answer in-person questions, telephone, and email. Sometimes we even get letters asking for a printed obituary, things like that. One thing that we do differently with our research requests than the rest of the library is that we do charge. So we do for like copies, things like that, we do charge $3, and then patrons get up to 5 pages. So if they want a probate or something, we'll find that probate and then we'll print up to 5 pages. And then if they want all of it, then we'll charge them per page after that. And then we do charge $15 per research request. So these are typically more involved research questions that might be on a house, might be on a family member, on a variety of different topics. So just things that, you know, might not be answerable in just like a desk shift. And all of us work on reference questions at the desk. So each one of my staff members kind of works and helps patrons in whatever way that they can. And so we do on-demand digitization requests sometimes. So like that means that we've had over the years people looking for particular archival drawings or architectural drawings, things like that, or like a specific VHS tape that we don't really have great access to. They wanted a digital copy of it, so we've done on-the-fly digitization like that. And typically we've had to work with outside organizations to provide that access. Then also just helping patrons within our collection, so a lot of help with microfilm, getting started with genealogy, things like that. We have had a number of people come down and want to learn about their house, so that's always kind of fun. So we can kind of start them off on stuff that they can do, like looking at city directories, looking at building permits that we have in our collection on microfilm, while we can do some other digging on our end, seeing if we have photographs in the collection, seeing if we have any architectural drawings or maps in the collection that represent the area that their house is in. So lots of fun, different answers. We get comments saying that, oh, this is a really strange question. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
But one other thing that we do kind of public services wise is that we do displays. And so right now we have 3 cases down in special collections that right now we have some are reading old scrapbooks from the youth services department. So they used to do annual scrapbooks showcasing like all the swag, t-shirts, little creatures, stuffed animals, tent photos, all the flyers. They made these lovely scrapbooks, and so we have those on display downstairs. And then we also have been working with Bianca, the branch supervisor, to fill a couple of her cases with materials from special collections, so we could bring our materials outside of just Maine. But for 2023, we're expanding that to the first floor of Main Street. So we'll be looking at purchasing some display cases for upstairs and then also at Eastern. So we've been working with Val, and so we'll have 4 different displays. Our thinking is having 4 different displays, and then they'll rotate throughout each of the buildings for the whole calendar year. So it'll be fun. So we'll try and be thematic and maybe plan like summer reading type thing and some other stuff. And if anything is more timely, we can quickly change that out too. We do work with outside organizations on bringing in outside exhibits that are created by other institutions. We've done the toured universal suffrage that was developed by the Carrie Chapman Cat Center in the middle of Iowa, like near Ames, and then some other fun stuff too. So, so we're always looking for ideas and things like that. So if you guys hear of anything, send it our way. And then collection development. So we do get materials through donation primarily. So that's mostly photographs from individuals, personal papers, organizational records like societies and things like that. We do get monetary donations, and we work with Casey on thanking folks for those things. And then we also, and sometimes we recently received a donation to purchase materials. So that was really, which I don't think we've had that since I've been new. We do have a collection development budget. So about 7,000 of that is already allocated for standing order, $1,000 to kind of play with, to buy more local materials, buy some more local titles from authors, local histories and things like that. Um, Then we also work with other area libraries who are discarding or weeding their collections. So we typically get a lot of requests from those libraries who are winnowing down their collections from genealogy and seeing if we want them. So then we kind of support our collection that way too. We've also, another thing that we've been working with Anne from Information Services, one of the librarians in that department, we've created a circulating genealogy collection, and we hope to do one with a local circulating collection just because we have so many great titles, but there's not so many, like, if you're a beginner genealogist, you're going to want how-to books, but there's not, you can't take ours out of the department. And so we wanted that option for folks to take home stuff after they've used it in our space. And similarly with the local history stuff, because people want to dig deep and read into local history at their leisure. So we do, coupled with that, we do collection, description and preservation. So we've been cataloging our own materials in special collections since our special collections librarian started in 2016. And so she's been cataloging our materials. She's currently working on a project to catalog maps. So any published map in our collection, she's cataloging, and it's getting representation in our catalog in Polaris. And then the rest of those materials that aren't published materials, those will go into our archive and manuscript collections. So hopefully just creating more visibility for those things. And then we also do archival description and processing. So that's just fancy language for actually going through boxes, organizing them, labeling them, and making them accessible to everyone. So, and then also we do a little bit of our own preservation too. So that includes creating housing for our materials, cleaning them, and minor mending, things like that. And then if you guys want to ever look at the collections that we have in our archive and manuscript collections, you can go to archives.davenportlibrary.com, and that's our archive and manuscript catalog URL. So it's really easy to search. It's all keyword searchable. So we do publicity and social media. So we write a weekly blog. It is called Primary Selections from Special Collections. So it's on a variety of topics. Sometimes it's just kind of fun, and we're showing digitized images from our collection. Sometimes it's in-depth research that we've done on a specific item from our collection. It might be a newspaper article that we found interesting, like, air conditioning, like fans and things like that on hot summer days. We were like, oh, what did people do back in the day with keeping cool? So we found articles about that in the newspaper, wrote about that. Our own social media account. So we have, and then a couple of our staff members are on the social media. Throwback Thursdays, things like that. A quarterly newsletter. We contribute to the library's podcast, Checked In, routinely. We create promotional materials, which I can hand out to you guys. So the top.
Greg just said people slept in the yard outside.
Yes, that's true. So these ones we've had professionally published, reprinted by DPC. And then this one is just a fun one from, I create little handouts for Party in the Parks on the tiny brief history of the parks compared to Marion's posters, but something that people can take home with them. But if you want to look at those. So we do that, and we work with Brittany to create those in our outreach and marketing team to create those. And then we do features on the TV for local stations, and then we also do like newspaper article interviews and things like that when they kind of come up. Then another fun thing that we've been starting to do for, I think, the last year or so, is that we are contributing Throwback Thursday posts for the city. So I send them one post a month, and they post some picture from our collections, and it's something to do with the city. So that's kind of city admin as a whole. And then we've been asked to contribute something to Parks and Rec, and then also the police department too. And then we do also instruction and programming. So we host classes presenting to various organizations, including schools. We do a series of presentations to students at Sudlow for National History Day. And we actually got a couple people that went to nationals. So that was really great. And then individual classes. So before COVID, we had a few course professors contact us, and we did specific presentations for their classes in special collections. And then we also do programming. So we create and present topics found in our collection. So that's typically staff members creating the content and presenting it. We sometimes schedule local author talks on local history topics. We host a variety of genealogy programs and collaborate with information services and youth services to provide programs beyond our regular scope. So we try and include them if it's not our normal stuff. Then we also do community outreach and have community partners. So we attend a number of different outreach events with our community outreach and marketing team. And then we also have partnerships with QC Beats. So a couple of my staff members are a part of the QC Beats team, which is a curated music collection that has St. Ambrose, Bettendorf Public, and us as the main people kind of building this collection, and then a couple other. Then we also have been actually really exciting prospects with the Historic Preservation Commission. So we've been partnering with them this year. So we've hosted a number of programs so far, and then we'll have Marion in September. She's going to talk about historical house funding. And then we've been doing downtown walking tours with a local historian, and they have been receiving some great press. So we'll have one on August 29th and then one on September 3rd. So if you guys are interested, come down and join those. We also present at local retirement groups and societies. So we've presented at Ridgecrest, and we've set up a partnership where we're going to go there every other month and present on a topic and bring materials to kind of invigorate conversation and just share stories with folks. And then we also have, we've given presentations at the Rock Island Arsenal Historical Society, given talks at German American Heritage Center, some events that we've attended in the past for community outreach programs is the Henry Farnham Dinner hosted by River Action, the Farmers Market, Party in the Parks, art museums, job studies fairs, Biggie Art Museum programs, and a bunch more. So we've been busy. Then also one part that might get left off sometimes is our city archives. So we do work with them on a number of different projects. Amy helps maintain their inventories, so she routinely goes and discards the materials that have met retention, things like that. And she also answers any reference questions that the departments have. So if there's any last minute things from finance or city admin or things like that, she helps them. And then I'm her backup if she's not here. And we have a couple different projects going on with the city right now. They want to clean up city hall attic. And so that's been waiting for cooler weather. So, and then we also do digitalization and digitized materials. So we actively try and digitize materials from our archiving manuscript collections. So when one of our staff members was still here, Pat, she finished up digitizing all the glass negatives in the Hostetler collection. So we are done with that. So, but the next step is uploading it to our Upper Mississippi Digital Image Archive. And then we do have volunteers and interns. Some big projects before I show you guys some fun stuff, is we applied for a grant from the State Historical Society, the HRVP grants, to digitize Vic's reel-to-reels. And so that grant actually is coming to its close. So we have received the digital files back, and we're uploading those to Upper Mississippi Digital Image Archive. And so those will be accessible and where you can listen to them. And so that's really great. We are updating our external local database search. And so we're migrating that to WordPress. And so we're cleaning up the data and making sure that that's easy to access for everybody. We're processing existing collections in the archive and manuscript collections. We're digitizing photographs from our archive and manuscript collections, and then also cataloging us. But I'll have you pass these around. I made you guys beginning genealogy packets. Tons of them. Yes. And if you want to take more, I made 13, so if you know someone who's interested in genealogy, feel free to give it to them. So we have a lot of fun stuff in special collections. So we have, so from our ephemera collection, which just means temporal things that aren't lasting. So we have fun political posters from people who have canvassed the area as a political person. So that's a fun one. And you can pass it around.
I remember that. I bet Tom
I
does
remember
too.
that.
Then,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
then we also have menus. So we don't have that large of a menu collection in special collections, but it's really quite fun because you can kind of see how cheap things were back in the day. So you could get.
I don't know if that's fun.
It's depressing. It's, yeah. Like, oh, you can't get this stuff anymore.
Interesting, nothing else.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, but remember your first salary.
well, I don't know how much a steak is.
That's true.
Oh, you can get
$8.75.
lobster dainties for $8.50,
That would have been pretty expensive.
right? Oh, okay. So here's the steak. Okay, plantation prime fillet is $8.95. So much less than like the typical 24.
My husband and I went to the junior prom and went to the.
Really?
For our dinner.
What? That's so cool. And then we have some fun stuff
Love
like that. I wish it was so.
I know.
There's a lot of these restaurants. I miss it. So we also have like birth certificates and marriage certificates. And so another thing that we do to preserve materials is that we encapsulate, not laminate. So lamination is the worst thing. So if you have anything you want to protect, don't do that. Come talk to us and we can try and help you with encapsulation. Because this is reversible. And then this is also a document, I believe it's like a citizenship document stating that they're getting naturalized or in the intent to become a citizen, and you can pass that around. Oh, we have tons of fun stuff. Okay. Can I go like 2 more minutes? And you guys will just have to come see me over in special collections. So one of our most recent purchases, which I was really thrilled to find, it is a letter from 1842 of a lady who was traveling from Ohio to the Quad City area, to Davenport specifically. And she mentions George Davenport and all the folks that we would think of, and talked about her trip and then also what she thought of the city when she arrived. And so I'll pass around our used copy so you guys can kind of see what the letter really looks like. And it's just the front and back letter. But it's a really beautiful script. So it was written on July 13th, 1842. And if you're interested in learning more, We did write a blog about it, and so you can see. So this is the original, beautiful, small script, very legible. And then she actually sent it and folded it and put the wax seal.
Oh, I don't even know what right.
So that's a really fun one. We have modern books that we have. So we have times written by the Writing Center over in Rock Island. We have city directories, which are one of our favorite and most useful for pretty much everybody in any sort of reference question. But I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. But any questions or anything like that?
Well, I spend a lot of time in special collection. They're wonderful. That's all I can say.
I did mention that we do like make housing for our collections. I've made my staff learn how to make phase boxes. They don't like it because it's a lot of measuring and it's kind of finicky, but it allows us to protect folks and create housing that's fairly cheap for years to come. It could
We could
be.
get volunteers to do that.
It could, and I have instructions, so.
Okay, one of the things to spotlight that Catherine's done a great job with her team and leading the department is just the value that the library can provide to the rest of the city as well. You know, she mentioned a couple of those examples, the Throwback Thursday and what we do in terms of the city archives. She's instrumental helping with that in Fort View, the Citizens Academy every year as well. Just a lot of great things that Catherine and her team in Special Collections are doing.
No doubt. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Very much.
Please come over and I would be happy to give you guys tours of special collections. You guys can see in the back and all that sorts of fun stuff.
I have a date to research my house right
Oh,
after
yes.
this meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I will get out of your guys'
I
hair.
might live in historic. Thank you again.
Yeah, no
Thanks.
problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is closed session for the purpose of evaluating the performance of the library director.
Oh, yeah.
Amanda has the motion to go into closed session.
Okay.
I mean, you guys.
I move the Davenport Public Library Board of Trustees hold a closed session under section 21.5I of the Iowa Code to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual requests a closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Have a motion and we'll, for everyone's information, have the letter from the library director requesting a closed session required. And okay, so we have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Call for the vote. Tom?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Sylvia?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And my own vote is yes. It's a unanimous vote. We are going into closed session. So I would ask that everyone except trustees vacate the premises and we will